There's a reason why people who've suffered narcissistic abuse often struggle to keep their homes clean. And it's not because they're lazy or don't care. If you've been in this situation, you know how exhausting it is to simply get through the day, let alone maintain a spotless home. Narcissistic abuse isn't just about occasional arguments. It's a relentless psychological battle that drains your energy, warps your mind, and leaves you feeling paralyzed. The mess around you isn't a reflection of your character. It's a reflection of what you've endured. Surviving narcissistic abuse means constantly walking on eggshells, dealing with manipulation, and being made to feel worthless. Every action, no matter how small, can feel like a fight for survival. The emotional weight of this abuse seeps into daily life, making even basic tasks feel impossible. You're not disorganized by choice. You've been conditioned to prioritize survival over everything else. The clutter, the undone chores, the overwhelming sense of exhaustion, they're not signs of failure, but proof of how much you've been carrying. Today, we're going to break it all down and expose the real reasons behind the chaos. By the end of this, you'll see that the mess isn't who you are, it's what you've been through. Procrastination isn't just about putting things off. It's a survival response. When you've been through narcissistic abuse, even the simplest tasks can feel like climbing a mountain. It's not because you're lazy or unmotivated. It's because your brain has been rewired to associate action with stress, criticism, and exhaustion. Every time you even think about tidying up, a wave of dread washes over you. The task itself isn't the problem. It's the emotional weight attached to it. Narcissistic abuse creates a cycle of avoidance. You start delaying tasks, not out of carelessness, but because everything feels overwhelming. The constant fear of being judged or criticized makes it hard to even begin. Dr. Christine, a trauma expert, explains that survivors of emotional abuse often develop avoidance behaviors as a form of self-protection. Cleaning the house isn't just about organizing. It becomes a battlefield of memories, anxiety, and exhaustion. The dishes in the sink, the laundry piling up, the clutter taking over. It's not a lack of effort. It's a response to years of being made to feel like nothing you do is ever good enough. Mel Robbins, author of the 5-Second Rule, emphasizes that procrastination isn't about laziness. It's about stress. When the weight of expectations and emotional trauma become too much, your brain goes into shutdown mode. Instead of attacking the to-do list, you freeze. The anxiety of trying to meet impossible standards keeps you trapped in inaction. You start to believe the lies the narcissist fed you, that you're incapable, that you're failing, that you'll never get it together. But the truth is, you're not lazy. Your mind has been in survival mode for so long that even starting feels like stepping into quicksand. The problem isn't you, it's the damage left behind. Narcissists don't offer support. They don't share responsibilities. They don't lighten the load. Instead, they sit back, criticize, and watch as you struggle under the weight of everything. When you live with a narcissist, housework isn't just about keeping things clean. It becomes a symbol of control, manipulation, and isolation. You're expected to do everything while they do nothing, and yet, somehow, they still find a way to make you feel like you're failing. At first, you try to keep up. You push yourself. You work harder. You exhaust every ounce of energy trying to stay on top of it all. But over time, the lack of support takes its toll. Day after day, task after task, you start to break down. The exhaustion isn't just physical, it's emotional. You aren't just cleaning a house, you're carrying the entire weight of the relationship, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional abuse. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, a psychologist specializing in narcissistic abuse, explains that narcissists dismiss their partner's needs, leaving them feeling overwhelmed and isolated. Instead of offering a simple "let me help," they belittle, ignore, or criticize. They act as if housework is beneath them, and any request for help is met with resistance or outright hostility. And so, you stop asking. You stop hoping for support. You start feeling like it's easier to just give up than to fight another battle over something as simple as the dishes. What's the point? No matter how much you do, it's never enough. The house gets messier, the tasks pile up, and before you know it, you're drowning in a space that feels as chaotic as your emotional world. Not because you're lazy, but because you're carrying too much, alone. Narcissistic abuse doesn't just drain your energy, It rewires your mind to live in a constant state of scarcity. You start to believe there's never enough time, never enough energy, never enough resources. And that belief trickles down into everything, including your home. The clutter around you isn't just random mess. It's a reflection of the fear and control that's been forced into your life. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often struggle to let go of things, not because they're hoarders, but because they've been conditioned to believe that resources are limited. Maybe the narcissist controlled the finances, making you feel guilty for every dollar you spent. Maybe they mocked you for wanting something new or accused you of being wasteful. Over time, you began to cling to what you had, not just objects, but security. Letting go feels like losing control, and after so much manipulation, control is the one thing you desperately need. Shannon Thomas, author of Healing from Hidden Abuse, explains that narcissists create environments where emotional and physical resources feel scarce, trapping their victims in survival mode. You don't throw out those old clothes, not because you want to keep them, but because what if you need them later? You don't organize the piles of paperwork because what if there's something important in there? You don't toss out broken items because what if you can't afford another one? This scarcity mindset keeps you stuck. It convinces you that holding on to clutter is safer than letting go. But the truth is, the more you hold on to, the more overwhelmed you feel. The mess isn't just physical, it's emotional. Breaking free starts with understanding that you deserve more than just survival. You deserve peace, space, and freedom from the chaos. Living with a narcissist means that even the most basic parts of life, like keeping a shared space clean, become a battlefield. You try to tidy up, thinking it will make life a little easier, a little calmer. But instead of appreciation, you're met with criticism, accusations, or even rage. Why did you move my stuff? You're doing it wrong. I liked it better before. No matter what you do, it's never right, never good enough, never worth the effort. And so, over time, you stop trying. Shared spaces in a home should be places of comfort, but with a narcissist, they become symbols of control. Cleaning up is seen as a challenge to their authority. Organizing things in a way that makes sense to you threatens their dominance. They demand control over everything, yet refuse to take responsibility for maintaining anything. This creates a toxic cycle. You clean, they undo your work. You try again, they criticize. You hesitate, and soon the mess builds up. But it's not laziness, it's learned helplessness. Shahida Arabi, author of Becoming the Narcissist's Nightmare, explains that narcissists use conflict as a way to exhaust their victims, making them more compliant. The more drained you are, the easier you are to manipulate. And what's more exhausting than constant, pointless fights over something as simple as putting away dishes or organizing a living room? Eventually, you think, if I just leave it messy, at least I won't be attacked for doing it wrong. This is how the mess grows. Not because you don't care, but because the stress of one more battle is just too much. The chaos in your home isn't a reflection of your effort. It's a reflection of the emotional war you've been forced to endure. Narcissists don't just criticize you in the moment. They plant seeds of doubt so deep that over time, their voice becomes your own. The cruel things they've said to you, you're lazy, you'll never get it together, you're such a mess, start replaying in your mind long after they've said them. And eventually, you start believing them. The mess in your home isn't just physical, it's a manifestation of the way you see yourself. If you've been told over and over again that you're incapable, that you'll never succeed, why would you even try? Negative self-talk is one of the most damaging effects of narcissistic abuse. It convinces you that no matter how hard you work, it won't be good enough. You start to think, why bother? I'll just fail anyway. The weight of these thoughts makes even small tasks feel overwhelming. It's not that you don't want to clean, organize, or take care of your space. It's that you've been conditioned to believe you can't. Dr. Kristen Neff, a self-compassion researcher, explains that negative self-talk is deeply rooted in internalized shame. Narcissists are experts at making you feel worthless, and before long, their words become the script running through your mind. The voice that once belonged to them now sounds like your own. But here's the truth. That voice is lying to you. You are not lazy. You are not a failure. You have been carrying more than anyone should have to carry. The mess around you isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of what you've survived. And when you start recognizing that inner critic for what it is, an echo of someone else's abuse, you can finally begin to take your power back, one small step at a time. Narcissistic abuse strips away your sense of control, leaving you feeling powerless in every aspect of life, including your own living space. Over time, you start believing that nothing you do will ever make a difference. No matter how hard you try to keep things organized, the narcissist finds a way to undo your efforts, criticize your methods, or dismiss your hard work entirely. Slowly, you stop trying. What's the point of cleaning if it's only going to be sabotaged? What's the point of organizing if you're just going to be told you did it wrong? This is learned helplessness, the psychological state where repeated experiences of powerlessness make you give up control. Dr. Judith Herman, author of Trauma and Recovery, explains that prolonged emotional abuse erodes a person's belief in their ability to influence their surroundings. When your efforts are constantly diminished or undone, you start to believe that nothing you do matters. The mess grows, not because you're careless, but because you've been conditioned to feel like change is impossible. And yet, the truth is you do have control. You've just been trained to believe otherwise. The narcissist's chaos doesn't define you. Every small action you take, no matter how insignificant it seems, is an act of reclaiming your power. Trauma therapist Shannon Thomas explains that healing starts with reclaiming even the smallest choices, tidying one corner of a room, clearing off one table, taking back one thing that was stolen from you, your ability to decide. The mess in your home isn't a reflection of failure, it's a symptom of what you've endured. But step by step, you can take your space back. You are not powerless, you are not trapped, and you are more capable than you've been led to believe. A messy home doesn't mean you're lazy, and it certainly doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've been surviving. Narcissistic abuse takes a massive toll on your mental and emotional energy, leaving little room for things like chores, organization, or maintaining a perfect home. The clutter, the undone tasks, the overwhelming sense of exhaustion, it's all a reflection of what you've endured, not who you are. You have carried far more than anyone should, and the fact that you're still here, still pushing forward, is proof of your strength. Healing from narcissistic abuse isn't just about cutting ties or moving on. It's about reclaiming control over your own life, one step at a time. Trauma therapist Shannon Thomas explains that taking back your space, even in small ways, is an essential part of recovery. Cleaning one corner of a room, organizing just one drawer, throwing away one thing that no longer serves you. These aren't just chores. They're powerful reminders that you are in control now. But the most important part of this journey isn't about the state of your house. It's about how you see yourself. Your worth is not measured by how spotless your home is. It's not defined by whether everything is perfectly in place. It's in the way you continue to show up for yourself despite everything you've been through. It's in the way you choose to rebuild, even after being torn down. So take a deep breath. Let go of the guilt. Be patient with yourself. The chaos around you does not define you. As you heal, your space will slowly reflect that healing. And when you're ready, one small step at a time, you'll see that you were never broken, just recovering. And that is more than enough.